All right, I'm back. It is that time of the year. I'm working on some tracks, some I guess what I call side tracks for the music conference coming up here this next week. It's Production Music Conference in Los Angeles. Always love this time of the year. Hopefully, we can make pretty cool connections on that deal. But anyway, I've been wanting to do a video on how to do alt mixes and some of the stuff on how I compile these files that I spoke about on this last video. Spoke about organizing your tracks, and I said that I really wanted to go back and really show how I do these alt mixes, because a lot of people are frustrated with it, and some are good with it. They do it, they make it a routine and make it happen, like myself. I've just come to make all of this a routine, because down the road, whether they need it or not, they may need it. It's always there. It's one less effort. All you got to do is go back and go get that one alt mix and shoot it to them. You don't have to go back and go 3 years later, what did I do? Or, have to recreate it. This is going to solve a lot of that. Be it that it may, there's one particular thing I do that, regardless of what you do, whether you have to go back, that will help you on this. So we'll go through all that and see if we can cure this. Now, I know there's probably videos out in YouTube of this. There are people doing it, and maybe my input, the way I do it, helps. It's just the way I do it and the way I've learned, and I don't claim to be the best at it. And but I've learned to do this, so here we go. First thing I'll do is I'll go in, and first I've got to name this track. Looks like I'm going to have to do it while I'm on video here. Hang on one second here. Naming these tracks are so much harder than creating them. I swear they are. Let's see here. Sometimes I just listen to the track and see if I can. There's a patch that can influence the name. And in fact, probably a video on how I name my tracks. Gotta name them something. Okay, well. Let's see something. Okay, so I think I know what I'm going to name this. Unless I have a reason not to. So I'm going to go rename this. I don't know. Tick of Anxiety. That's the best I have. And some of these names, believe it or not, the name of a track can catch an editor's eye, and it gets their curiosity. It can really get them to want to listen to it. Believe it or not, the titles of these tracks can do that. Most people don't realize that. I've seen it happen before. I've heard people talk about this, and it really is cool. So as hard as it is to name them, you think you're going to run out of names and things to call tracks. I almost wonder how that's going to go after getting into the thousands on these cues. I have no earthly idea, but it's you got to get creative on that deal. So anyway, once I get this to where I can have it ready to roll, I go and I'll build a file folder here for this track. And I keep my Reason sessions in a Reason, like you just saw. There's a folder for Reason sessions, but certain clients, I'll keep the session file folder in with the folder of everything I've done for them. So, either way, just always, and I mean always, keep this stuff. Keep everything. This stuff's like gold. Don't ever throw out your music. Don't ever think that you're not going to need that session, because I promise you, you'll need it. Forgot what I named it. Okay, here we go. Tick of anxiety. So I just kind of open that file and leave it over here. All right, so first thing out the gate we want to do is I want to export a song as audio. We're going to go to full mix. So we go tick of anxiety. Generally, I just go full. They know it's full mix. You can put full mix, doesn't matter. I go WAV file standard unless the particular publisher asks me for a certain bit rate in sample rate. 48K 24-bit is standard right now. But, I mean, there's publishers that are asking for 44K 16. It is probably for server space. Could be a lot of reasons they convert it on their end. I know one particular publisher, My Music, still is asking for 44.1K 16-bit in their own. They have their own, but everyone else, unless I've got one particular publisher asked for AIF files, everything in between takes care of the rest. Everyone else is 48K 24-bit. So this particular, I'm going 48K 24-bit. You don't have to worry about dithering. It takes care of it. It's a higher bit rate. You're not going to have to worry about dithering. Dithering is important, and any lesser, go ahead and click it. It does help. If you want to know more about dithering, go YouTube. It's some pretty good explanations on dithering. It's something simple as it is. Something as simple as just noise that enhances a track. It's amazing how people can discover this stuff. It's like saturation. It's amazing. So this will render out. Generally, first thing I'll do is I'll test them with my earbuds, these Apple earbuds. And a lot of times I find myself doing my music with these Apple earbuds. People think, well, no, you have to have really expensive monitors. I got news for you. You're trying to achieve, the end result is trying to achieve real-world audio. Your best speakers to mix in are real-world audio. Not to say that you shouldn't have. It's good to have good speakers. I've got some back here whenever I need them. But go watch videos of guys like Chris Lord-Alge, some of the biggest mixing engineers in the world. That guy mixes his music into a Sony Jambox, an analog Sony Jambox. He's got $100 and something thousand console or more. Look behind him, he's thrown it into a Sony Jambox. He's referenced them in different monitors. I mean, it's standard procedure. You want to do that. So in this case, I'm going to listen to this track, make sure everything is, before we proceed, just going to listen to it real quick. I just want to make sure that I got everything, because I don't want to go through all these mixes and something screw up. Notice I got something coming in every 4 to 8 bars. That's what you want to do, keep interest in these tracks. Just a little side note on that's what these guys like, options. Options within options. fades out beautifully. Just like that. Good natural fade out. Always get a good tail on that stinger ending. Never fade anything out as a whole. Have a good stinger ending and then let it have a natural tail. But I mean, you want to give options within options. In other words, when you build a track, like I just said, you want stuff coming in new every 4 to 8 bars. And give options like pauses. I've said it before in a video and I'll say it again. And I've heard editors talk to them and say, I can look at your waveform and I can tell you whether I really want to listen to your track or not. In other words, if you have a big blob of black, there's no options or pauses or anything, they're probably a pass it up. And it could be a good track, but they can see it. I mean, if you stop and think about it, go look at some of the waveforms of the music you do, you'll see this. So that track is good to go. That's your full mix. So I'll drop it over here in the file. There's one. And we'll go back and I'll do a narrative mix. A lot of times I've gotten to doing that lately. And I've gotten my habit of doing a lot of going to time cut downs. You know, it's really become important because I'm having publishers asking more and more for that. In some intermittently, not all. So let me listen here. See if I can see. Hold on. That's a lead part. None there. None there. That's cool. Just your big lead parts. They want a good narrative version, something that's set soft up under. When they don't want any of those leads, you give them that option. So we'll export that as narrative mix. Narrative mix. Wave file, 48K, 24-bit. Render them all out. It will. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the alt mixes first. When I do the time cut downs, I'm going to do a little something else and show you. And it's kind of helped me more than just doing those cut downs with the MIDI because of how some of this MIDI is. Trying to chop to the center of it and cut a time, it won't play unless you start from the beginning. Those of you know MIDI, when you have certain patches that have one solid note that runs an ARP or some sort of a patch, just depending on how it is. So getting everything to one big wave file on that might help the most. So, alright, so we got our narrative mix. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll do a non-percussion. I'll go ahead and go back to my original state here, make sure everything's, and I'll get rid of perk. We'll bottle perk. That clock tick is considered perk. And a lot of times I'll do no percussion, no effects, or no effects. All these transition effects. Give them that option. Get the kick out of there. Evolve percussion. There's no other perk. So this will be that, because that's sort of a drum perk. That's percussion. Some of your effects you use are considered percussion as well. You have to kind of think about that. That ARP is percussion. Got that out of there. leave that impact because sometimes that's just an effect and that's okay. So we're good with that. So that's a non-percussive. The impact is iffy. A lot of times that's not really percussion. Those drum rolls, those timpanis, they were basically, percussion. So we're going to treat those as such. And bringing that out. I'm going to render that. So basically you get the idea of what I'm doing here on that. You get the idea of what I'm doing with the alternative mixes. Indeed. All right, so I've got some alt mixes that I need. A lot of times, you'll see I've got 4 here for this. I have a particular publisher that I'll go in and I'll go, okay, no clock tick specifically, or I'll go no bass, or I'll go no pads, no drones. I'll just go on and on, sparse mix. So you get the idea. You just kind of, whatever a publisher needs, get it to them. Don't do that, because if you don't get that to them, you kind of blow it off, you're done with them. They're not going to ask you to do anything again. They're not going to take any more of your music. So you don't want to do that. You want to do this. It takes a little work, so it's worth it. So let's get this unmuted. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to go take my mastering effects off here, and I'm going to render out the mix. I'm just going to go export songs auto file. I'm just going to go mix. What I'm going to do, 24-bit is fine on that deal. I'm going to drop the mix back into my session, because this is where I'm going to edit my time cut downs with. Probably the majority, unless you're really in the advertisement, the majority is 30, 15-second bumper, a 30-second, 15 to 17-second bumper, depending on the average, 18, and then a stinger ending. So I'm going to show you how to do that. 60 is just 30 more from 30. You just find that mark, but you'll get the general idea of what I'm doing here real quick. So with that said, I'm going to go find that tick of anxiety mix, and I'm going to drop it into my session here. Stop that from playing. And I'm going to solo that. And I'm going to bring my mastering effects back in. Because you don't want to render anything with mastering effects and put it back in your session like you're bouncing. Because then you really will get double mastering effects and it won't, all kinds of crazy stuff, it won't work. So make sure before you do what I just did, bypass your mastering effects, your output master effects, anything you mastered with, and then turn it back on when you get that mix back into your session. So basically, it's like turning everything into a bus channel, like a bus mix, but that's for mixing down. This is basically, you're going to edit the song as a whole in the time cut downs. I'm going to edit it into 30-second, 15 to 17-second bumpers and such. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of figure somewhere around here might be 30 seconds. So if you can kind of see that I have to, in my head, kind of, calculate in my brain as to where, and these loop markers, hang on one second here. I have to calculate in my brain my time. So it's 138 to 204, so it's 26 seconds. We gotta have 30 seconds. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll back up. And I'll get 4 seconds on that. So I may need to go 36, 4. Hold on one second here. 28 to 30 on a good fade out. This is close. So either if I've got something here, that effect right there might work, or I may end up adding another transition effect that builds up to that impact. Like right here. And that actually technically could work. There's an option just right in this little segment right here. They may cut that and go, in that 30 seconds, they just want that stop. They can do that. But in the whole progression of 30 seconds, a lot of people would go just add another transition. You just go in, create an audio track. Added swell. If I can type correctly. And I can go into my loops and swells, and I've got a pretty good idea of what I'm. Always know it's another part of organization I'll talk about in that last video. Organize, and I'm not the best, mine's not the most organized, but organize all your loops and your samples, guys. There's programs out there you can do it. It's something called Composer Cloud, I think. Look it up. That'll help you. You can put all your loops and samples in, and it will categorize everything automatically. It's unbelievable. Something to look into. I don't use it. I just haven't had the time. That doesn't mean that I shouldn't, but you know. Let's go mediums. Come on. Too long. Hell. There we go. I'll drop this in here, somewhere around in here, and I will add, I gotta add me a little bit of, something else I do is I'll add a little bit of good delay absorb reverb here. Go in, my trusty delay absorb, and I'll go in and see if I can bring that hold on 1 second here. Let's see what this does. Nope, that didn't work. Needed something longer, my bad. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to just go with what we had originally. That'll work just fine. That works just fine. And the good thing is if they need anything else other than that, I can always give it to them. I'm not worried about it. So, what I'll do is in this loop region, I'm just going to export loop as audio file, and it's going to be 30 seconds. 24-bit. There's a chance where I send these, they probably don't need these cut downs, but I have them. Like I said, you've got them. So now I always know generally about halfway into the mark I can get my bumper, which is about a 15-second. A bumper is kind of a 15-second advertising mix. A lot of these bumpers roll in and out of commercial segments and sporting events. Sometimes they want that. So this is probably 15 to 17, so 14 seconds is fine. 14 is fine, but it doesn't have to be 15. I think the rule of thumb is 12 to 17 seconds or something. So let's see what this sounds like. See, that's that last segment, 15 seconds rolling out. So what you want to do is export that loop file. This is easy, guys. Bumper. I'll just call it a bumper. I could say 15 second, but that's not exact. So bumper is more appropriate because That way it will hold you to your time. If they ask specifically, if you have a publisher that says, I need a specific 15 seconds, you got to do it. It's got to fade out. And these time cuts, in most cases, want to fade out right at that time. Boom. Sometimes you have to cut your fade out and move it quick out. A quick out, much quicker than the tail you gave. Generally, those little odds and ends, if you let it tail out a little bit, second or two longer, they'll fade that out later. It's just not a big deal. The next thing I want to do is a stinger. So the stinger, you want to get that ending with like one chord, maybe a couple of chords rolling it out. So that's a little too quick. Let's go back to, hold on. Let's go back to here, see what it does. See how that works? Just like that. Roll the stinger, button ending. Just give them an ending, a quick ending that they can drop in, and they'll cut and edit it however they want. So export loop audio as stinger. You're going to get, again, you're going to get some publishers that are going to be a little picky, a little more precise on these. They want you to be down to the second, you know, and do the work. Give it to them, because they're going to work for you if you work for them and give them this. You know, I'm not going to say what I'm doing is perfect, but there again, it just depends on the publisher that you're working with. So this stuff is like gold. Bumper, stinger. Now, one other thing I do is I'll go, let me get all this back to where it goes, and then I'll end this here on the final note, is I'll get rid of all that. Let me mute that. I'll bounce out my stems. So you export bounce mixer channels. Basically, you're mixing bouncing the stems. The stems are just each track, each performance track. All these kicks, these pads, these drones, transition effects, cellos, ticks of a clock, all your perk, your lead guitar pad, added perk. That mix you don't have to do that I did, just your individual tracks. And then what you want to do is I do wave file, 44K 16-bit dither. Just go ahead and send them out that way. That way you've got room to process them and master them in another session. Give somebody else that. That way there's no deviation of what bit rate they wanted them at. They'll do it when they render that session. There are publishers and clients that do want your stems. There's some publishers out take your stems and they'll mix them themselves and remaster them, and they'll take the stems. In fact, I've mentioned this before. Go to a site called extrememusic.com. They literally, that place is amazing. If you want to learn about reference tracks and listen to these, they take each stem and you can listen to each track, each stem, each instrument, and you can isolate it and listen to what these guys are doing. That's your reference on how to learn how to do some of this music. So I mean, some of these publishers, they want the stems for that very reason and a lot of other reasons. So a lot of times you see editors that just want one track at one stem, and if the publisher or their client has that, they'll send them it. And again, they may later say, hey, can you send us the stems to that session? You better have a session and be able to do it. If you go back and you tell them, I deleted the session, I don't have it anymore, you may have lost all credibility with that publisher. I mean, you just might very well be done with them. So, but there it is. I just do stems because that's just the terminology. But anyway, guys, it's easy stuff. There's all the stems and tracks I just sent out, all in audio. And boom, there's your file folder. You can drop your session in there. If you have one track you did for one client, you can put everything, that contract and everything in that thing. That folder will go in to this one will be my side tracks for the conference. Boom, done. And I know those will go to another folder if they go later to another publisher, or if they go to somebody I met at the conference who says, hey, I like those tracks, I want to take them. And that's how that cookie crumbles, my friends. Or not really crumbles. Maybe that's how it bakes. Who knows? But anyway, I hope that helped. Until the next time. See ya.